We're Group 8. Today we will be presenting a blockchain property registration system under the supervision of Dr. Adel ElMessiry and Dr. Mohamed Sedky. So the presentation will go as follows. We will introduce the problem statement, the key issues that are coming with the problem. What is the blockchain? What is Casper blockchain? The CEP47 NFTs. What is Sedky? Solution design, a demo, and benefits and our future work to our problem. So what is the problem? The problem statement goes as follows. Property registration process in Egypt is a tedious and time-consuming task that requires many physical transactions and paperwork that could take several days. Using blockchain technology, the transactions will be more efficient with higher security, and there will be less probability of fraud. I would like to shed light that the real estate GDP in Egypt is 223 billion Egyptian pounds. This is just to shed light on how big a market this is and how crucial this problem is, so we need to solve it. Not only that, but there is also a common issues that already arise when we talk about real estate in Egypt. One of which is the fraud paperwork and illegal apartments. This is a very widespread issue in Egypt. I believe everybody is aware of. Not only that, there's also the issue of if somebody has international properties or like he lives abroad and has properties in Egypt and would like to sell or transfer the property to someone else, it's a very tedious task. Even if he wants to rent the property, to take a lot of paperwork, and he has to come himself, and it's very time consuming. So we would be saving people a lot of time. So as you can see, the key issues to both these problems is a timely process. There's tear of documents, there's forgery, there's possibility of double selling, and there's also human error. So with the blockchain, hopefully all these issues will be resolved. I will leave the floor to Maria to discuss what is the blockchain.
Okay, so the blockchain is basically a distributed digital ledger that records transactions on a peer-to-peer network. By definition, peer-to-peer means that when a transaction is made on the blockchain, it's automatically saved on a ledger, which is like a database that is maintained by a network of computers instead of a single authority or party. This ledger is maintained in the form of blocks, and each block has like several transactions and a unique hash or code that links it to the previous block. This link creates a permanent and unchangeable record of every transaction that has taken place on the network. And it's immutable because the transaction is saved with a unique timestamp on all nodes of the blockchain. So what makes the blockchain unique? What makes the blockchain unique is that it is decentralized, which means that all the transactions are verified and processed by a network of computers instead of a single centralized authority. This makes it highly secure, and also it makes it immutable because for someone to change a record on the blockchain, he has to change it in like all the nodes of the blockchain, which is impossible to happen because they must have the same timestamp. Also, by using the blockchain, the records are now available and visible to everyone, which makes it highly transparent, and it also prevents disputes over property ownership. The last thing is that by using the blockchain, the property registration process is now way faster so that it can be done in like few minutes instead of days or weeks, and it also eliminates all the paperwork needed and the physical visits.
Okay, so now that we know the advantages of the blockchain, we can now see how the blockchain technology fits in our use case. And during our literature review, we found different implementations of the blockchain in several domains, especially property ownership, because blockchain by design allows you to provide and transfer ownerships of items in a very fast and secure way. So after we decided to work with blockchain, there is the question of which blockchain network to work with. And based on our research, we decided to work with a fully public blockchain like Casper blockchain. And that's mainly because a public blockchain will allow us to have a low initial cost. Also, Casper allows us to scale without a sacrifice. And what I mean is It allows us to, every time we need to make a change to the contract, we do not need to write it on the network. It allows us to upgrade easily, and it offers us a ready-to-use SDKs that are familiar and easy to use on the spot. Also, Casper offers us low and predictable gas fees. So another design choice that we had to choose is how to represent the properties on the blockchain network. And in our research, we found that the papers had two options. Some of the papers represented the properties by their official documents, by writing the official document on the network as it is, as a block. Other option was to encapsulate the data of the property as an NFT. And that's what we did. We used the Casper CP47 standard of NFTs. And this approach of using NFTs allowed us to have a more generic representation of the properties, because you can think of an NFT just like a JSON file that is just stored on a very secure ledger. And this approach allowed us to link a property to its owner very easily by his public key, and then we can link the public key to the national ID of the user, for example. ارجع تاني. Also, using NFTs, we can trace all the properties of an owner by his public key, by having some sort of a wallet. And using the CP47 standard of Casper was easier for us to write, avoiding writing a contract from scratch. We are just building on the already implemented standard. And we didn't use the standard as it is because we would face some issues, such as anyone having a Casper coin could register any property on the system, and that's something that we need to avoid. Also, this will make no restrictions on the registration and transferring process. And we would have anonymous owners. We could have users that all we know about is a public key, and we needed to have some governance over that, because we need to know who is the owner of the properties. Also, using the CEP47 standard as it is limited us, because some certain metadata about the NFTs were not available to query from the old contract. So we had to write our own APIs on top of the standard.
Okay, so moving on to the empowerment outcome, we chose to be a commercialized consumer product, and our product is called Sedky. So Sedky is basically a digital property registration system. It's a blockchain-based web application which offers high security, and it also eliminates all the paperwork and manual processes needed and used in the current PRS in Egypt. It's highly secure because all the PRS transactions happen on the network of the blockchain, which makes all the transactions by nature secure, immutable, and also transparent. Sedky also offers optimized performance because it offers portability, because now we don't need to go to the PRS office to carry out any of the transactions like registering a property or transferring one. You can just do it any place you are, even if you're not inside of Egypt, as Meligy mentioned, and it can be also done using your web application. Also, Sedky uses the decentralized nature of the blockchain to carry out most of its functions. So for example, the transfer function, we eliminated the need for any intermediaries. So we don't need to go through a central entity to make any kind of validation. You can just choose your property and choose to transfer it, and it's done right then and there, which also offers a way faster process than the current PRS in Egypt. So I'm going to guide you through the key features we have in Sagilli. So of course, the first one is how to register a property, which is minting an NFT in blockchain terms, where the NFT is directly mapped to a property in real life, like a car or an apartment, for example. So this feature has two sides, the user side and the PRS side, and they are completely separate interfaces, as will be later discussed in our demo. So the first thing is the user side. The user is just prompted to enter his property information and attach his supporting documents, and then just send the request on the database to be later viewed and approved by the PRS side. And on the PRS side, the user just views all the requests, selects a certain request, and views its details along with the supporting documents. And he can choose to approve or reject that request. If approved, then the request is sent directly to the blockchain, and the ownership is given to that user who requested the register. We also have the transfer property feature. This one is only from the user side because, as we said, we eliminated all the intermediaries. So the user just chooses the property he wants to transfer, gives the information of the buyer's ID, and just sends the request to the blockchain, and the ownership is transferred directly to that owner on the blockchain network. We also have the Wakkil feature, which is giving allowance on the NFTs. It's just like giving all the privileges of an owner to another person to that particular NFT or property. It's like a tawkil we have here in Egypt, and it's like the transfer, it's only on the user side. So you just select the property, select the user you want to transfer the privileges to, and then it's just updated on the blockchain network. And you also have, of course, the view properties feature, which is that you view all the properties you have, all your cars, apartments, and so on. And it will be later discussed again in the demo.
So now that you know what our project is supposed to do, we can go over how we did it. So our project is split between the Casper public network and our web application. Luckily, all our previously mentioned features are kind of built into the CP47. I guess that's work. Into the CP47 smart contract. So we have VINs for property registration, transfers for transferring properties, and third-party authorization for tawkil. And the CP47 smart contract also has all the NFT information. We just added some extra APIs for querying metadata, which makes our life easier when building the web application. We have, on the web application side, we have the interface to the Casper blockchain. So this way, the user does not have to call the blockchain contract directly. We also have all the user identity storage. So normally, for any Web3 application, you would have an external wallet on a browser extension where you would sign all your transactions, but we want to link public keys to user identities, which we store on the web application side. We also have different interfaces for the property registration system and the user. And we built the application using a stack of Next.js for the web app, which has both the front end and the back end. For the database, we used Superbase. Superbase stores all off-chain data, and these are mainly user information such as national ID, passport, and the associated public key, or mint requests before they're sent to the blockchain for them to be verified by the PRS. And we have Casper for the blockchain, as we mentioned earlier. One main feature of our application is the authentication stack. So again, usually, as we said earlier, we need browser extension or external wallet for a user to do anything on the blockchain. But we didn't want to do that, mainly for two reasons. First, we would have anonymous users that are not linked to a profile. And second, we didn't want to have a Web3 interface for an application that's meant for the general public. Most people don't know what a blockchain is. They don't know how to manage their wallets. They don't know what a wallet is. And it adds it makes the onboarding much harder, much more difficult. So we have a Web2 interface to what is essentially a Web3 app. And we do this using a combination of these two. So Auth0 is a login provider, which gives us OAuth tokens when user login. So a user can log in with their Google account, their email and password, their mobile phone using passwordless authentication. And this gives us an OAuth token, which authenticates them on our database. And we integrate it with Web3 Auth to generate private key for the user, which we can use to mint requests, to transfer, etc. So anything you would do with the browser extension or the external wallet, we would use Web3 Auth instead. And this diagram kind of shows how we link the two is from the Web3 auth docs. So Web3 auth stores your private key on a three-part share. So one of the shares will come from your Auth0, another share would be stored on your device, and another one would be on a two-factor authentication. So if you have two of these, you can get your private key and you can use it to sign transactions on our application. And now we get to see a demo for our project this.
Okay, so the first part of the demo is, as we discussed before, the login page and the separate interfaces, both the user and the PRS side. So that's the database table of the users. So as you can see, I'm trying to log in for the first time, so my user is not on the database. So you can just log in with your Gmail account, and then you're prompted to enter your information like your name, national ID, nationality, and so on, because it's your first time. And then when you do and you click on the insert button, your info is then sent to the database, and you have a new user record created there. And we're gonna go view it in a second. And now, as you see, you have a profile, and we're gonna go view it on database. So a new record is created here with your name and info. And there's a can register field that's null by default. It's like false, then that's whether you're a PRS user or not. So by default, you're a normal user. If it's set to true, then we can go and view in the nav bar on top. There's a new page added that's view requests, because only the view requests can only be seen from the PRS side to view all the requests that we have as a PRS. And now Maria is going to guide you through the second interface, which is requesting to register a property.
So this interface is only available for the user side. So as you can see, the user can register either an apartment, building, or a vehicle, and then he enters all the details of the property. And then he's prompted to add the property image and the official documents, but it won't be visible in the demo. And then when he presses the register button, the request is already automatically goes to the PRS side. Moving on to another demo, this is the view requests page. It is only visible for the PRS side. So as you can see, the PRS side can view all the requests, and then he presses on view details for a specific request to view all the details, and he has the choice to either register or reject the request. And when he presses register, the NFTs are automatically transferred to the blockchain of the requester.
Now we will go on and view the property of somebody that already registered the property. You will see now that when he clicks on the view property tab, he can see his properties, and now he's viewing the details of his property. Now for the transfer property, you can go, now we're viewing a profile, and we'll go and view his properties. You can see that there are no properties registered for this profile. And we'll go to view a separate profile and view its properties. You can see that it has a car and an apartment. And in the situation where he wants to sell one property to another user, he would write the ID of the property. It is a drop down for all your properties, and you write national ID of the other user you want to transfer to. And when you press transfer, it would send that property to the other person. Now you can see once the transfer is complete, and you press OK, and then you go view the properties, you will see now that this person is homeless. And when you go to the other person that had previously had no properties, that he now has an apartment in Rahab. So what are the benefits of Sedky? So as you can see, it is easily traceable of the assets and ownerships, since you can just take the public key of the NFT, place it on the Casper LiveNet, and anybody can view which public ID is on, not the public ID, but the public key is on which NFT. So it maps directly to the owner. There's minimal possibility for fraud or double selling, since every public key for every NFT is only mapped to one owner. So you can't double sell it, and it's not changeable. So there's no, there's little possibility for fraud. It's a speedy process because, as you can see, it did not take much time to register or transfer any properties. It's higher security due to the nature of the blockchain.
So our business model is a one-time payment model because we're intending to sell our system to the government to exchange it by the current property registration system. So our main target audience are basically the government and the property registration system. However, we are also willing to market for our project to other entities because we believe that our project is generic enough to be applied on different applications other than the real estate market in Egypt. The last thing is that we're going to offer a dedicated customer support team that will offer a premium customer support for all the Sagili users.
So for future work of our project, there are 3 features that we believe we should add. We wanted to add a joint ownership in the case that 2 or more people would want to share the same property. And if they have rent or something, they could be split evenly through our application. We want to add taxing to the contract since now it's almost free. So we would want to add taxing so it can start generating revenue so that the government would want to register properties for people or transfer properties for people that would tax them. And we would want a judicial authority so if there's any legal lawsuits or anything and properties would be taken, they would have special privileges to have access to all your properties. We would like to thank everybody for coming today and taking time out of their busy schedules, and special thanks to Dr. Adel ElMessiry and Dr. Mohamed Sedky. And thank you, that's all.